Welcome to GCC Giants. This session sheds light on resilience in motion, supply chains, safety, and smart manufacturing. Now, the automotive industry is at a defining moment now, navigating supply chain disruptions, accelerating digital manufacturing, and meeting rising expectations around safety and sustainability. India's GCCs and technical hubs are no longer just back end engines of efficiency, they are now frontline contributors to resilience, engineering excellence, and sustainability goals. From precision components to smart manufacturing systems, India is increasingly shaping the industry's global future. It gives me great pleasure to welcome our speakers, leaders from the automotive industry. Please join me in welcoming Vikas Prasad, President and MD Webasto Roof Systems India Private Limited, and Rohit Gupta, Regional Director of Research and Development, Nexteer Automotive India Technical Center. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Looking forward to a great conversation at ET Studios. Let's get into it. Now, the automotive industry has faced some of its sharpest shocks over the most recent years. How are India's hubs now moving from reactive firefighting to proactively building more resilient supply chains? I'll start with you.
Thank you, Shilpa. Let me answer this as a positive shock. The positive shock, what I see is a traditional propulsion system is changing into a new propulsion system which is called EVs. And within the EVs, there is called HEVs, which is hybrid. There is a plug-in hybrids because of the range anxiety and complete BEV systems. I think this shock has to the all the supplier fraternity because they have to ramp it up to a new propulsion system. When it comes to the BEV, we have a weight issue. When it comes to HEVs, we need to make sure that we have a good amount of battery system which can increase the efficiency. And for that, a huge kind of an capex needs to be built up in India. And that I see is next 5 years going to be very interesting for India.
All right. So, this shock you feel is more of an opportunity for you, and you're honing in on it. I'll take that across to you, Mr. Gupta. Are you also seeing this as an opportunity, or do you think that shock has definitely been undeniable over the last few years?
Well, great thought. And according to me, I think disruptions do give rise to opportunities. Of course, and disruptions are permanent in nature, right? If you look back in the history, they have happened for a variety of reasons, from a geopolitical conflict to broken down supply chains due to tariffs, restrictions. So I think they are going to happen. And a futuristic company will look at future proofing their supply chains so that their customers are isolated from any such shocks. And then for me, that translates into opportunity. To realize that India hubs have sort of been gaining prominence, and I'll just elaborate how. Means when you look at supply chains, what it means, it's a very integral part of operations, and especially in auto industry, they're strongly interdependent, right? If I were to refer to my GM days, we had close to 30,000 components on a vehicle minimum, components, not even subcomponents, and 300,000 suppliers. So supply chains are very important. So that said, I think what has happened in India and what we as Nexteer are also trying to tap into is digitizing the whole procurement process. Being a global player who is supplying steering systems to all automakers, digitizing the whole procurement process gives a leeway. And why we are doing it from the India Hub, we have the talent available. There is digital depth in terms of what these systems could possibly accomplish in terms of anticipating what disruptions would come. The second part is, if you look at the supply base in India itself, there's domestic growth in the passenger vehicle sales, commercial vehicle sales, farm equipment sales. What this has done in the last 10 years, and also given the policy from the Indian government, it has led to a broadening of the supply base. When I say broadening, it's not just in terms of numbers, Shilpa, right? Yes, the numbers have also grown in terms of auto ancillaries that are in India, but also in terms of capability. I still remember the time when there would be a drawing coming from somewhere in the globe, and can you do build to print in India? right? And that question has changed. Who can who can supply us a build to spec part from India? So that transition has happened, and India hubs like ours are sort of part of that story.
Okay, fantastic to know how you're driving some real value out there. I'll also touch upon safety and reliability. These are two cornerstones of the automotive industry. How is your center specifically making sure that you're raising the global standards of safety and quality?
A great question, and it means automotive as a sector, because anything to do with human life has to be governed by safety and well regulated all across the. So in terms of our center, firstly, there was being a more than a century old company in terms of building such products. There's a well defined framework on safety. Safety, in fact, is also part of our tagline. We say safety first before even selling our products. So, given that the teams here at India follow process to the teeth in terms of whether it's through the engineering design, through simulations, in terms of building digital twins to anticipate what kind of possible scenarios that cannot be executed in real world but may happen one in a million. So these are kind of value adds we are bringing apart from a laid down process. And from a digital technology perspective, also I think what we are experimenting with at the moment is how could we enhance productivity and efficiency in both, right? So productivity for me is, can I do things in lesser time when it comes to safety audits, compliance audits, and efficiency is, am I going to do it perfect the first time, right? That's the definition. So in terms of both, how could we elevate the performance of our teams in terms of delivering the best outcomes for the customers?
Right. Thank you for walking us through that, and interesting how you define that too. Efficiency is getting it right the first time, and also making sure that you do it in the least time possible. Great. Vikas, what is your view on safety and quality? I feel roof systems over the last few years are gaining even more importance, and it goes hand in hand with safety.
Oh, absolutely. That anything on your head is a safety critical, and whenever it gets to the glass, it's a homologated part. So safety is never been a question when it comes to the roof systems because it's an integral part of specification and standards. So more to do with when it comes to innovation, because the roof system, the way it's innovating, from the steel roof to the glass roof to the movable panels, and now soon you will see the convertibles also coming in the Southeast Asia and Asian market. You see that this change, the first element is the safety, and coupled with the quality, because it's a moving part and then has to survive to the lifetime of the vehicle which is been designed for. So there is no question there. What element which triggers this is the level of new regulation and safety aspects which needs to be incorporated during the design itself. And that's what we see. We need to innovate not only from the perspective of the standards, safety, plus also to make sure that this is highly efficient and energy saving.
You know, I want to make a slight segue. You spoke about how very soon we'll be seeing convertibles in India and elsewhere in our neighboring countries. But that leads me to the question, why are they not popular here yet? Because they've been ubiquitous elsewhere in the world for many decades now.
See, when it comes to convertibles, it's a very niche market. There is a certain kind of flamboyancy in it. India being a tropical country, so as the other Asian countries, this change is triggered by the feature fight which OEMs have, and they would like to bring the best feature on board. And as you know, the India has a lot of segmentation in a demographic profile, and that profile demands such products. And that's why you see in India what has happened in the last 5 years in the space of roof systems is phenomenal. It has never happened so fast. From nothing to something, which is both the panels are moving now in the roof system. It's amazing to see where this roof systems can go.
Absolutely, we'll be watching out for that. How you're raising the roof, quite literally. I'm sure you get a lot of those in a day. But also now moving on to sustainability, it's now become a mandate. And I'll ask you that, Rohit, how are you making sure that you are putting in some sustainable practices that can elevate the value across the global organization?
Well, sustainability, I think, is a topic on everybody's tongue and minds. Every corporation across the world, irrespective of auto sector, is high on their sustainability agenda, and so is it at our company Nexteer. So, but when we talk about sustainability, depending on what part you are playing in the value chain, the measures may be different. Our imminent focus is towards could we optimize energies in our manufacturing processes. When we talk specifically about India centers, we are trying to leverage the talent and technology and our ability to innovate from this ecosystem on building systems that sort of bring that aspect of how we can measure before even going to, let's say, conducting energy audits, how we can measure. Secondly, I think a very important part, also driven by regulation, especially in Europe, being a global player, it's very important for us. Is this new regulation coming from each country? Now, when you think about it, there is a need that somebody is looking at these changes and preparing the company for those changes. What better way to leverage generative AI and such technologies to reduce the time so that the company has more reaction time to when a legislation change is going to hit them. And a third part of this answer, I would say, is when we talk about sustainability and how India can really add value is when any company is looking at how sustainable we are. One part is qualitative, the other part is quantitative. How do you measure? How do you say I'm a very sustainable company? You need systems in place so that you as an organization can talk about it. Referring to some of my previous experience where we used to talk about from pit to port and port to pit. That's the life cycle of a material, right? When we talk about products. So, during that process, are we building systems so that we can get sustainability quotient of the organization by knowing how these materials were mined and when they were disposed of, how much was reclaimed back? I think that will be a truer sense of achieving a really becoming a really sustainable corporation.
Yes, I think that would be a truer barometer and a meter for sure. Now, Industry 4.0 has been talked about a lot in theory. How can you share with some practical examples how this is driving change in the industry, how this digital transformation is driving change in the automotive industry?
Well, I'll try to, it's a great question, and I think Industry 4.0, we even heard of, in the conference about Industry 5.0. But when you talk about 4.0, so let me take snippets. When we talk about technology like AR, VR, right? I think we realized the power of the technology during the Corona days, the COVID days, right? One example that I can think of is where we operated a machine from here, sitting in India, advising an engineer in South Africa to be able to repair and prepare the machine virtually. So, because the experts were not allowed to travel. So, this is one example how the technologies have. Now, coming to automotive, if you think about predictive modeling, and we started with how we can future-proof the supply chains. Now imagine that you can combine the domain knowledge of people, couple it with digital depth that the talent brings and the technology enables. I think sky is only the limit. One example I can give you is today, everybody talks about lean, but there is a lean 4.0 being talked about wherein you will get the part delivered to the plant on the day you need it. Now imagine this doing without technology. I think it was impossible. But now that discussion is on the table, it tells you that there is growing faith in what digital transformation can do in terms of preparing organizations to be able to have that kind of lean inventory system.
Interesting. Now I'll take that across to you. He explained about the impact of emerging technology. I would love for you to weigh in on the same, Vikas, when it comes to your roof systems.
Well, let me answer by saying that how the sustainability is important. All the while we are all trying to see how our company can be sustainable. That means net zero. I would see these are all talks, probably one sphere of the leaders are trying to do. Let me go to the other side. The other side is how your products are sustainable in terms of the whole supply chain, right? And that brings the topic how sustainability is integrated into the design. The circular economy, that means you can recycle those products. That's our coming into the design stage. And we are talking about the industry 5.0 and soon be 6.0, and they all will be integral part of it. And that is going to be interesting when see that the battery systems will come and these will be recycled to the tune of 90 to 95%. So that means wastage is only by 5% to 10%. Imagine, look at those, then you'd probably be saying that yes, we are into the circular economy now.
All right. So I think it's really about breaking down those silos so that you can make sure that there's no wastage across that entire chain and all those processes. Now, also, now shifting focus to your specific center, could you share some product breakthroughs that are emerging which are driving value for your global organization?
See, when we talk about the GCC, most of us we say global capability, but we call it as a global competency centers, because we think that there was a time when there's a pool of engineers sitting doing some kind of a capable job. But when it comes to India and the way the industry is changing, you need to bring the competency. The scaling up from the capability to competencies has to be fast. And those competencies which we are trying to develop by the skill sets, this is fueling the global domain and the design centers as well.
All right. Now, talking about resilience, and I'm posing this to the two of you, we'll wrap with this. Looking beyond efficiency, how are you building up resilience across your supply chain, either by using next gen materials, advanced materials, or by using emerging technological capabilities?
So it's a great question, and three words always echo very well with me since the COVID days. So I think COVID gave birth to the term resilience and brought it to prominence. The second term that came up was anti-fragility, and the third I call as adaptability. So I think when we think about business processes or SOPs in operations, um, the role technology is playing, and I'm a technocrat by origin, so, um, has been ever evolving. And there was a sort of a leapfrogging effect that happened. So when we talk about resilience, I think from a system understanding perspective is where we are delving and brainstorming that our system should help us pivot for any such disruption so that our customers are never impacted. So that said, it's a very strong combination of whether it's AI models or it is platforms. Both play an equally important role. And to enable this, there is also a very clear understanding that we don't have to do everything ourselves. There is a great ecosystem available in India, which can help us give agility to build such systems which should future shock-proof our customers, our stakeholders from any disruptions that come our way. And we try to combine it with the principles of anti-fragility, which really talks about that can you thrive on a disruption that is thrown your way. So one quick example, as I said a while earlier, is when we talk about materials and consumption. So could you optimize design? Could you test and at the same time shorten your cycle for doing prototypes through virtual simulation? And this is something the India Center is enabling our company to do.
All right, so anti-fragility and adopting those tenets to make sure that your systems are future shock and future ready. Okay, future shock proof and future ready. Because
When we talk about the resilience, I mean, you, as Gupta said, COVID has taught us a lot. But keeping that side aside, for us, the resilience doesn't mean that you are trying to prepare yourself for the current situation and make sure that you survive. My way of looking at resilience is what is coming, you predict, and you able to scale up yourself. Some people call it as a flexibility, some call it as adaptability. You know, the problem is when you talk about the adaptability, the situation is on you and you need to adapt. Flexibility is something like if change comes, you have an avenues to trying to flexible yourself to attend to this. I'm saying resilience means you already raise the bar and to anticipate what is coming. Like that's what we are trying to do. We are trying to bring from capability to competence because we know that this capability is not longer be a capability because that AI system can do it far better than the human. But the capability if increased to competency, then we are arresting what is coming.
all right. And I think this is something that a lot of leaders have been speaking about, moving from capability to competency, so that it's a win-win for not just the organization, but for everybody who is working in them as well. And so that your GCCs can drive that value that we're always talking about here. Thank you so much for joining us here at Studios today and unpacking our resilience, safety, quality right out here for our viewers. And thank you so much for tuning in. And you listen to two absolute leaders from the automotive GCC industry. And for more such expert takes, remember, you just all up. And for more such expert takes, remember, you can catch all of that right here on GCC Giants.